The following podcast is a part of RadioMisfits.com. And now it's time for the Mr. Nailsin Show. Joining me now for the Mr. Nailsin Show is a returning guest. Back in the good old days when I had guests all the time, trying to get back to that. And in this case, welcoming back Michael Blair, who was, like I said, a constant, well, maybe not a constant, but frequent guest. And one of the things I regret missing out on calling you in on the show was the fall of Nicola Sturgeon.
that was pretty funny. Yeah, it's got to be said. That's funny, and it continues to be funny because they got rid of her successor as well and brought in a zombie. It's really tremendous.
Yeah,
We've got a robot in charge now. He's just like robotic Mr. Swinney. He's got about as much personality as a breeze block. I mean, really not got a lot going on there.
Well, pretty soon it'll just be an AI character anyway. So,
well, I think Stan already is an AI character.
That's probably what he is. He's not really there at all.
I saw a quick, like a synopsis of his speech today. I didn't watch it because I can't watch it. I can't watch this stuff. But it was basically, I was a brilliant chief prosecutor. People will now go to jail. The rule of law is upheld. I was a brilliant chief prosecutor, and so on, repeated.
Yeah,
and
sounds familiar.
Yeah, but he's releasing 2,000 prisoners, supposedly low risk, all in one day at prisons, and in a couple of weeks there's like higher categories, 1,700 are being released in one day. This is to make room for all the people who said nasty things and somebody shouted at a police dog, and got a year and a half jail, which seems excessive. But who am I to question the wisdom of the leadership?
Yeah, to be sure.
You see what happens when you do.
Yes, I know. That's what I've called you on for. But the final thing on the final.
I'm not really sure how this affects Scotland, us being, semi-autonomous and sort of almost independent. Apparently, the long arm of the law can reach out and pluck you from your place of living and pin you down to Wandsworth or something. It seems fairly unpleasant. And people were saying, when they were saying, why are people being put through so fast, really picked up, arrested, into court, and then sentenced? Why weren't they pleading not guilty? The simple answer was that if they pled not guilty, they could then be remanded in custody until trial, so they could theoretically spend more time being remanded in custody for pre-trial than the sentence they're going to get. Just one guy did plead not guilty, and he's remanded in custody until the end of February. And if he
for an offence that he might not even do time for.
You're never going to get that. You're never going to get compensation for that. If he's found not guilty, what do they do? Do they add someone at the end of his life or something? You give a few extra months and, don't die in December, we'll give you till January. I mean, till June or something. I don't understand the whole thing. But I do know one thing, it's not good.
No.
I can see the same thing happen in America if the Democrats get in again. I can see basically internment camps and I mean, look some of the stunts they're pulling are scary. You've got a situation where, we will literally admit to having shot at the ex-president, and we don't give a crap who knows. What are you going to do about it, guys?
Yeah, exactly. It's like right in your face, And
that's what's happening here as well. So we're doing this. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. We've now discovered what being a member of the public as opposed to being a member of the establishment.
Right.
That's the difference. Now it was kind of blurred before. You never really paid much attention, but now it's it's an us and them thing. We are the plebs. You should eat bugs. You should eat bugs and be happy. In your cardboard box.
Right.
That seems to be the thing, and people. I mean, I noticed it in America. I'm seeing stuff coming from Los Angeles, which I love as a place. And then you got people who had houses and also living in tented encampments. So it's horrendous. Really, I never thought I'd ever see the day.
No, it all happened very, very rapidly, and
Very
just
rapidly.
of the attitudes of it seems to be, over the years, it's like to be incremental to condition people, and I suppose to a certain extent that happened. But how very quickly it went from just the
Yeah.
very basics and principles of free speech are completely
Well, I
evaporated.
think what I think is that they had a plan, and because there was a lot of blowback about the COVID thing and the injections and the deaths, a lot of people that kind of stopped them moving forward. So they've had to, if they're going to do Agenda 2030, I think that's where they're at.
Yeah,
I
that's
really
the
thought
new
to
title.
myself, yeah, that's the new one. There's a 2025 going about America, but I just ignore that one, I think, and we'll go with the 2030. And I kind of wonder, I thought, well, if it goes on at this pace, they're going to struggle to get everything done by 2030. Then, when the election was called, and Richie Sunak was literally running around doing the most ludicrous things that you think you don't want to lose this completely, aren't you? You don't want to be here anymore. It was obvious that he was just giving it to them. He was saying, "Here, please come into number 10. I'm not going to put up any opposition."
Right.
It was obvious what was going on. And Starmer said during the COVID thing, he wanted stronger lockdowns. He wanted people, nobody could get out for like months. It was going to be like that. And people would just have to get on it, and people were going to be, vaccinated whether they wanted to or not. That's what he was talking about, and saying, the government are too lax, they're too this, they're too that. I would do it differently. I'm thinking, well, bit of luck, he wasn't in. And of course, as soon as it comes, he's been tasked by the people, the puppeteers have gone, here's your job. You don't have to care about what it does to you, what they say. You're going to do this, and you'll be well rewarded. Or not, as the case may be. It depends on the mood they're in, doesn't it? It seems
Apparently,
to be. You either get well rewarded or you've never heard of it again.
Yeah.
This is the tricky part. I think I'll stay kind of low level on this one. But it has been, it's actually quite frightening when you look at what's. I mean, we saw that. I don't know if you saw the footage of the Notting Hill Carnival in London. It's like a 2-day Afro-Caribbean. There's about millions of people turn up. Literally millions of people come to this, and it was extremely successful. Apparently, only X number of people were murdered. It was, that was quite successful. A list of things that had been done. But as the news kept saying, everyone's having a wonderful day, apart from the people who are in hospital with, life-threatening stab wounds. They're not having a great time. They're not
But if you ignore that part, it's a great time.
The party. It's for the party by mentioning death and stabbings and saying, no.
Well, these things happen.
Yeah. It said on the list that the police put a list of things that happened to people, and there's only one theft from person. I mean, you got millions of people there. There's only one theft was reported.
Yeah.
That stinks. I mean, it's a pickpocket haven. I mean, really, it's a heaven for like, oh my God, we don't know what pocket you're going to next. All these people crammed together in the centre of London.
Yeah.
I go, oh no,
and it appears the reaction is to, okay, everybody shut up and don't talk about this on Facebook or whatever.
No, talk about the good stuff. Don't mention the war.
Yeah, so it's always, hey, I wonder how that's going to work.
The old John Cleese one, God sake, don't mention the war.
Yeah.
And mention it every 30 seconds,
And until at such time they see fit. Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, it was a good day in the war. The war, yeah, the one we told you to shut up about.
Yeah, they walk like this, doing the exaggerated, silly walk, the jackboots.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing. I aren't meant to mention anything. It's all sunshine. It's all lovely. It's all tremendous. It's like when you see, a newscaster from. I occasionally watch Fox News, but I tend to watch Redacted. So God, I'll probably be arrested for that. But
yeah, I know. You got to be. I don't know. I got to be careful.
Yeah, they'll show an outside broadcast in Los Angeles. It's beautiful and sunny, and there's a beach and this and that. And this is a tight shot on this because you've got all these homeless people to the left and to the right and to back of them. And they've got a little tight shot of the ocean with somebody surfing. It's a beautiful day here in the Southland, you know.
Now to get to the beach, you got to dodge all the piles of human excrement in the street.
That's the tricky part, yes. But once you're here, it's in the.
Hey, it's great, you know.
Watch out for the buried stuff. Yeah, it's pretty. It's all lovely when they put it like. It's like when they pull back from a shot, and it's like the Ukraine thing from 2 or 3 years ago. They were showing, tight shots of BBC reporters covering in ditches and sheltering and wearing flat jackets and helmets.
Oh yeah,
and then one there was an old lady walked past with her shopping.
Yeah, they had the same thing happen here. There was there's been flooding, and this reporter, and she was in a little canoe. Look at the floodwaters, and then there were two guys walking behind her. It was about ankle deep water.
Yeah, I remember seeing that quite recently.
Yeah, so it's nothing new.
It's just against the wind with the umbrella and everything. Nothing happening.
Yeah,
not a breath of wind.
All right, we got the shot. Okay.
Yeah, that's how you go now. Yeah, it's not like it's something new. I think there's always been skullduggery when it comes to these kind of things, because you can show what you want to show and not show what you don't. People see on TV, they're like, my parents are like, my mother especially we've got to put the news. Oh, news is coming on, right? Okay, and then what's the weather after that? And it's a routine. Oh, there's the Scottish news coming on now, and she would do that day in and day out. And the weather was really important. This old man says, "Look at the bloody window. You can see what the weather's doing." No, but I like to hear somebody say the wrong thing, Oh, it's going to be sunny tomorrow. Well, it's pissing rain, because weather forecasts. Well, recently they've been terrible. It just doesn't make it able to go along. The new heat wave thing that you've got, because the map used to, from say 7 or 8 years ago, you saw a weather map, and it was green and it had things on it saying up to 32 degrees, up to 30, whatever it was in summer. And now the maps are bright red with orange. Like, danger, 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 you're all going to die, you're all going to fry.
Right, yeah.
The world's on fire, the climate's exploding.
Yeah, it's always on fire.
Name of God, man. I mean, seriously, no one believes that. Well, my mother probably
no, apparently enough do, so.
But enough do, that's the scary thing.
That's all it takes,
It just takes a few. And anything, I mean, my sister and I don't know, we never have got on, but your family, and we used to go to my parents' house, and I gritted my teeth, and we also did, but for the sake of them. But since my parents both passed away, I'm never really there very much. I would maybe occasionally drop in, but she kept insisting she wanted to come and see my flat that I have now. I live very meagerly. I have a small life. It seems to work better that way. So her and her husband come in and they sit down, and I've not a mention. Oh, that's quite a nice. So it's all charity shop stuff, but it's it's cheap as possible. eBay clothes, this sort of thing, and as usual, we all got into politics. She's very much SNP, very socialist. And of course, I'm not. I can see the point in some people, and but she can't see the point in anything like that. So they ended up this huge fight. And at one point, this is a 66-year-old woman with her fingers in her ears going, la, 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 I'm not listening. So at that point, I told her to get the F out and don't let the door hit her arse in the way. She said, are you serious? I'm serious. I am. Get out. She'd never been talked like that in her life. Her face was a picture. I wish I'd taken a photograph. It was just speechless,
Right.
Doing this to me. And her husband, Ian says, but she went out first, slammed the door, and Ian says, God, that's going to be look, you've done it now, but my journey home is going to be bloody miserable. Ian, it's nice to see you. Right. I think we lasted, I think we did an hour before the inevitable frank exchange of views happened. But prior to that, she would have done that while out in her parents' house, made me feel, don't me, shut the F up or whatever. And I would just say, because you can't throw it out your own parents' house. So I had to wait a long time to do that. And by God, it was worth it.
Well, and sometimes that's all you can do. It is that when you're up
I think
against the brick wall, it's like,
well,
well, just go.
absolutely, because there's no come and go. There's no, well, maybe you could be
Right.
right, or maybe it's that way. It was just completely. I think she said I was an old an old fantasist living on his own, a pathetic old fantasist. I think I've got. you know,
I, well, then why aren't we in paradise then?
yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
well,
it
it's a
never,
glorious
oh, it's the
paradise.
bad guys.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
you're the bad guys. It's a bloody miserable life. But anyway, so we have that, and people. I mean, I used her as an example of people who are refused point blank to see another
point,
opinion or
right,
another view.
right.
There's only one opinion, only one view, and
Yeah.
that is it. And nothing else counts. And that's a kind of, I suppose, if you're working among people who all think the same way as in indoctrination, and
Yeah.
it's only people you discuss politics with basically are the same people who you agree with, and that's easy to do because that's very simple. Yeah, we agree on that. That's great. We never fall out about that because we all agree on everything. But sometimes you've got to be open to a wee bit of discussion.
Yeah.
Hear the opposite view, have an exchange of views, but then I'm always willing to say, well, there are some. I mean, I've said I don't think it'd be such a bad thing if Scotland was independent with the right people in charge. I
Well,
don't see how
sure.
that
Yeah,
would
it's
be such
doable.
a problem.
Yeah.
But if you've got people that are basically lining their bloody politics constantly, I
Right.
mean, the corruption in the Scottish government, would say the Scottish government, is beyond belief. The billions of pounds have disappeared.
Well, yeah,
Money
of
for
course it
COVID,
did.
for reparations, and nobody got any money. Say it was 25 million or something. 5 million, well, billion, sorry, billion, million. That's nothing. He's at
Oh,
bloody COVID.
it's going to be in the billions
It
at
has to be
best.
billions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a fifth of that was given to people who'd lost their jobs, their houses, or their shops, or whatever, their businesses, and the rest just vanished, literally vanished.
Ah,
There's a police
gee.
investigation into it, but that's gone on for a long, long time,
Yes.
and nothing very much seems to be happening. Oh, yes, yes, Operation Branch Farm is still going. We're still investigating. Miss Sturgeon is still a person of interest.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
seems
right,
like it
okay.
wouldn't take that long. Yeah.
It's about 3 or 4 years now. It just feels like it anyway. It just goes on and on and on.
The money is spent so very quickly, but at accounting for it, well,
Well, yeah, well, actually, that's like,
boy, it's hard to count.
Was it Donald Rumsfeld, who stood up in front of the assorted press on the 10th of September 2001 and said that the $3.4 billion are missing. I know
Yeah,
they all
yeah.
laughed. They all just started roaring and laughing. And he was like,
That's chump change compared to now.
I know. Or was it trillion? I can't remember. It was so much money, it was high water. I'm sure it was 3.4 trillion or something. It was unaccounted for in the defence budget. Not only that was only the defence budget.
Yeah.
That wasn't counting the rest
I
of
mean,
the
look,
things.
at that point, I would even respect says, yeah, we can't tell you what that was.
Yeah.
Just saying, they're gonna be, well, it's all top secret stuff. Just take that or whatever. But just to sit there and say, I don't know where it went.
We don't have to account for anything because you people mean nothing to us, and
yeah,
we don't
that's
care. What are you going to do about it? This is the thing. Because if the justice system has been corrupted in the same way that everything else has been, when you get judges here who are literally that just drooling at the mouth to wanting to put people in jail, they're just so excited about this. There's no. Well, I'm sorry about this, Mr. Soots. I mean, it's tough on you, but let's put a suspended sentence, and you're looking after your disabled wife or something. No, it's 18 months. Get in jail. And that's I think the one about shouting at a police dog was one of the funnier ones, but the guy is in jail and I don't think he's very funny at all.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's a bad day to be him. But I mean, I respect him standing on his principle. But good Lord, that's a hard road to hoe. Yeah.
In previous some other demonstrations that were by the right people, there were police horses being attacked and all sorts of stuff going on, but. It's okay. You get jail for that. Oh,
No.
no. But you shouted at a police dog.
Yeah, shouting at a police dog.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is perfect.
If you see it, if it was at a policeman who was insulted by this, but
Yeah.
the dog wasn't insulted as
Yeah,
far
the
as I
dog's
know.
happy as
It,
could be. He's getting
it,
attention.
was, it was probably hanging out somebody's leg at the time.
Yeah.
It was in hog heaven, man. It was having a
Yeah, the
great time.
dog's fine.
The dog's fine. It's not insulted at all. It's perky. It's ate all its
But
dinner at the time.
it's funny, but at the same time, it's terrifying that
It is.
it goes to that point. All right, to make an example of you, just to flex the power and let me show
Yeah,
you
that
what
is.
power is.
This is
It's
what
pretty
we
much
have.
what that's
And
about.
what he's basically saying again today is, I will not put up with the law, rule of law breaking down sort of thing. But it was okay for, and the thing is, there were people involved on both sides who were nothing to do with either side. They were instigators who were there to wind people up and get them,
Hmm.
to make them feel like, oh yeah, let's really get going. And that's what happens in all these things. There's always people who've been, you know, paid to appear and stir things up, then they disappear.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
kind
That's
of
all.
away.
Yeah, there's
Once
always.
their
It
job
only
is
takes a
done, they wind
handful.
people
Yeah,
up. There's
yeah.
half a dozen people throughout the crowd, soon gets people riled up, and before you know it, things are getting out of hand. And and I understand. I mean, the pictures coming from what was going on were fairly scary because there were, once you got idiots to start smashing windows of shops and
Right.
looting stuff, that's when it becomes. Well, I suppose they got to do something, deter people. But then again, if you do go over the score, that makes the people who might be, sympathetic to look at that. Well, wait a minute, maybe that's about half.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen so far, polls that they've done, it's like 65% of the public think it's perfectly fine. There's not a problem with it. That this is what these people deserve because they did this, because the TV said they did
The
this certain
TV
thing,
said they did. Yeah.
and the
It
newspaper said it.
it's a matter of how the narrative is delivered.
Well, you just
It's like
looked at.
here in the U.S., you had 2020, we had all these George Floyd riots where they were burning down blocks of city and destroying it and all this stuff. People
Yeah.
got murdered, all kinds of damage and stuff. Then you have the Trump loses the election and you have the January 6th protest where, yes, there were people who got into fights with police officers and there was property damage, windows broken. Uh, Pretty minor in comparison to the riots and murders and terrible
So
amounts
they
of damage
put it this
done.
way, they
But
didn't try to
that was
dumb it down.
okay. This one was, they literally would say it was worse than the Civil War, Pearl Harbor, and 9/11
Yeah, it was
combined.
it was ridiculous because what I saw of it is the interior shots were, it's like these guards and that were leading the people around like a
Yeah, the
tourist thing.
cops, yeah, right. The
Yeah,
police
here
escorted
come
them
the
in
police.
and they're
Yeah, have a
taking
look.
pictures
Yeah,
and all that. And
yeah.
that was about it.
Yeah, I didn't say, had they gone in on a rampage and started smashing up people
Right, right. Had they actually killed somebody? They didn't. They kept saying, they still
and
say they did, but they didn't. There were some
no,
heart
they didn't.
attacks. There was a woman shot by a police officer. Uh,
Yeah.
that's it. There really
Yeah, but
wasn't anything
if
else.
they'd gone in and set fire to the place, you could understand.
Yes,
Well, my God,
yes.
this is insurrection. This is,
Had they done what 2020 had done, then
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
oh,
would say,
God,
all
yeah, yeah,
right, that
yeah,
was
go for it.
horrible,
But that was bad.
But
It's,
but that's
it's,
the thing. It's the how is it couched? What's the framing of it, and that's what they'll do. So if there's a rally upset about mass migration to Britain, well, and fights are, of course, they're going to break out. It only takes a few little instigators,
that's an
and
awful
then it's
goal.
it's the British right,
Oh, yeah, it's
showing
the
off
far
their
right.
racism, and that's what it
It's
is. And
the
that's why
far
we need to
right,
clamp down and shut them up on Facebook and that kind of thing.
If you fly the flag of, the Union Jack, the
The
Union
Union
flag,
Jack, right?
that's you're a right winger. You're
Exactly. Yes.
a dangerous right winger, and you should be locked up for doing that. But if you fly the flag of some Middle Eastern country that may
Right.
be at war with somebody else, that basically is absolutely fine. You can put it on your Parliament building if you want.
Yeah.
You know that there were. I think they had in Glasgow City Hall. I think they had a variety of different flags, like everything except the Union flag, sort of thing. You know, and you
It's
think,
like,
oh,
what
come
country
on,
are you anymore?
what's going on here?
Who are you
It's
representing?
absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
You know, and then you talk about the narrative of this. I've been absolutely astonished at what's been going on with 1 minute Kamala, whatever her name
Oh, yeah,
is
you
the
got to
most
get it right or
dominant.
you're in trouble.
But at that point, regardless of her pronunciation,
Right.
she was the dumbest person in America. She was
Yes.
so stupid, she didn't know how to tie her own laces. She was so dumb. And suddenly, she's a bloody genius.
Yes.
She's an orator in the Obama style. When I heard that, the weird old woman with glasses on that was saying that,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yes, and I'm going, wait, are you thinking of the same person? That's not what you're lying. Simple as that. You're just actually lying.
I
This is
know.
what the people are doing now. They're lying to our faces, flat out lying. Television lies, newspapers do. The public go, must be right, must be true.
As long
With
as
it,
enough, dude. Good
while
enough.
seeing the facts in front of them, here are the
Right.
facts. This is what happened.
It's
Oh,
an
that's hilarious.
incredible series of events. And I have to have thought that there must have been some grumbling between the camps about that maybe they would have wanted an open convention and they would have put Michelle Obama on the ticket or something of that nature, is what I thought would happen. But they went ahead
I thought
with
that's what was going to happen.
yeah, I thought that's what the plan was. And then no, we're
Yeah.
going to go with Kamala, and they get her in there and all that. So I guess she had some pull with somebody within there once they decided to
Well,
kick Biden out. But
I also think that she'll be very easily manipulated.
oh
Because
yeah, 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 yeah,
the
yeah. That's
people that
always been the
actually see
case. Yeah,
a wee bit of flattery, and she'll be, that sounds like a great idea. And
yeah,
like Joe Biden, Joe, you're the greatest politician
yeah.
we've ever had. Oh, I'll sign anything,
I know.
Even if it's
But
not my signature, I'll sign it.
the main thing about Joe Biden right now, well, why did he have to step down? Why?
So he didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if it's his health, they can't really say clearly. They say, well, he thought he would lose, and you thought Kamala wasn't doing anything. So you got to put her in. It doesn't make any sense at all. If it's his health, and you'd say that, well, I would believe it.
Yeah.
But then why
Yeah,
is he
that would
still
be
in
the truth.
office? Then
Why is
Kamala
he
has
allowed
to
to
be
do it?
sworn in by law, and they're not doing it. So,
No, they've not followed any sort of process of law at
no.
all, as far as I can see. It's just they're doing what the hell they want. Um, Poor old Joe. But I think what they did, they fed him to the wolves when they had the debate with Trump. They
Yeah,
knew
they
that
knew he was
they
going
had
to
a plan
fail.
at
Yeah.
that point to get rid of him, and they had to show the public. Up until then, the public believed the hype that Joe Biden was fine.
Well,
The fact
some
that he
did.
couldn't, you can't hear
I've been looking at him floundering for
the fact that
years.
you walk around in circles and walking through hedges like the Simpsons, it's like
No.
you're like Homer.
It's like, my God.
That's okay. He's always just had a stumble as he falls down the steps for the 18th time.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It doesn't
oh,
everybody.
he's always kissing that girl. He's always sniffing her hair. So what? People were actually defending that. I
Yes.
was like, what? You cannot be serious. But
That's
yeah, oh no.
that's one of those things
It's
I
a
always come back to is like, if you're going to lie to me, for God's sakes, make an effort. Come
yeah,
up with a
try
better story. Come on.
something better than that. Yeah, he's just an affectionate kind of guy. Yeah, stop that now. And the funny thing was, the parents of any of these children just stood back and smiled. They
Yeah.
didn't seem to think, if that had been me, I would have said, get that away, get away from my daughter. And
Right. Yeah.
me,
No kidding.
I would have been furious. I said, get
Yes.
away. But no, they just sat there, stood there and smiled, and
They just
everybody
take it.
smiled. And, yeah, because he said, but I think they realised, I think, that they were seeing Trump coming up and he was to the polls were going, well, he was going to win, there did something. And
Yeah.
so they made Joe Biden debate him. And it wasn't a debate.
Yeah. It was an ambush, basically.
It was an ambush,
An ambush.
totally. And I was hoping, I said beforehand, this will be a disaster. But I hope that Trump would say, and on camera during the debate, I can't debate this man. He's obviously not well. He more or less actually said that. I don't know.
He didn't come out and say, but it was kind of obvious. And he said, he was like, "This is ridiculous." At some points, and he would look at him like, "Are you okay?" And stuff like that, But yeah, he would have,
He could have gained. I thought he gained a lot by being something magnanimous. He wasn't going after him because.
Yeah.
You can't go after somebody that's obvious.
Right. He couldn't just beat him like that in front of everybody when it was so sad.
Yeah, and that's what I hoped he wouldn't, and he didn't do that. So, and I hope that if this debate with Kamala, I'll just say Harris.
Harris.
Harris. Yeah, she wants some sort of crib sheet to read from.
She wants a cheat sheet.
Can you believe that? I mean,
yes.
No, actually, I can. Yeah, I can actually believe that. Yes, I can actually believe yes because she does not. Some of the stuff she comes out with, it's what you remember that movie, My Fellow Americans, where Jack Lemmon and James Garner, and the Lemmon character had that same phrase that he kept trotting out. I can't remember what it was, but he just kept saying it. And he's like, "You've been saying this since 1954, Yeah. And it was just one of them. He kept saying it, and people were like, "This is lovely, And that's kind of like Harris, who comes out with these weird sort of homilies that make no sense. It's like no
it's
sense.
Just gobbledygook.
People. And the funny thing is when she's saying that if it's an audience, they only show her. They don't show the audience. Because the audience is probably going, what the hell did she just say? Because it makes no sense. It's like you almost think it was Joe had actually,
I know. It's like at least he has senility as his excuse. What's hers?
He had an excuse, yeah.
She's not old enough for that.
No.
So she's just
Probably
stupid.
was old enough for a lot of other stuff when she was younger, but I'm not sure if that's just, CGI or something. But,
Yeah.
Let's say, let's be generous and say it's CGI. She doesn't do any of that stuff at all. There's no truth in the rumor at all that she did that to get to the top. But the weird thing is, when she in California, was she what was her role? Was she the district attorney or the state
She was
attorney?
attorney general, and then she made it to the Senate, and then Joe picked her, and she's vice president now.
So she was basically the head of law and order, as it were, of prosecutions.
Yeah. Right.
How is that possible? How is that even possible?
Well, she had a talent, Michael.
Yes.
The mayor of San Francisco liked her a lot.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Friends in low places, yes.
Yeah. And she went from one to the next, and next thing you know, hey, look where she is now, huh?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Ma, look at me.
Yes.
Top of the world. She has a bit like what's the matter, James Cagney right now? There's a touch of that, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible mess, and it's like a.
So that's. I mean, I'm more comfortable talking about the American situation because I watch a lot. I watch Redacted. I don't know if you ever watched Redacted.
I've heard of it, but I didn't get to. Yeah,
Clayton Morris and his wife. He used to work. He was an anchor for one of the big channels, MSB and somewhere. I had got fired and he left, but they're actually very good. They get a lot of good people on to talk, and they give an alternative version, which is the truth. That one that nobody does in mainstream media.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few of those that they've left, and they said, yeah, it was all crap, and
now you've got
that kind of thing.
Now you've got this weird, I'd say, holy alliance because some people see it that way of Donald Trump. You've got Robert Kennedy now, Tucker Carlson, all these people that have kind of jumped ship from the other side and have apparently seen the light. I kind of wonder just what light they've seen, but it's
it's a few things here where they could obviously Trump and Kennedy would not agree on a whole lot, but where they can agree, and that's the way things are supposed to go. Is look, I don't really agree with say a welfare state, but I'll give on it if you'll give on border security or something along those lines. That's how it's supposed to go. Now it's no, I get my way, and you all die if you get, if you get in my
Yeah,
way, and that's
yeah,
basically where we're headed. You know.
yeah. It's just that, well, we're looking at basically a one-party state.
Yeah.
If it goes the wrong way, and even if it's just what I'm just trying to stay away from Twitter or X or whatever as much as possible because that's kind of dangerous. You don't know who you might be talking to. It's how
Yeah,
bad it's got
that's
here,
always the case.
really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did tweet what I say about the what the hell was it now? Gone. Doesn't matter. But I am trying to stay away from the platform as much as possible because it's been you just don't know. You don't know if you're saying the right thing or whether you should be doing this, or do you just go full tilt at it and take your chances? And the way things are going,
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think you don't know.
I mean, I post whatever. I don't really engage, I only except people I know on it. I learned that lesson a long time ago. You run into psychopaths and stuff, and
Yeah, but
suddenly your
really,
notifications are clogged with weird crap. But right now, what's happening, especially on the cusp of this, France arrested the CEO of Telegram and that sort of
yeah.
thing, and
So
that's a big shot across
that
the bow. And
well, they also arrested the two guys, the Tate brothers again. Have been
oh
arrested
yeah,
in
they've
Romania.
been going after those guys for quite a
There's an
while.
awful lot of people saying, "Oh no, but they're deep state as well, and they're CIA
Well,
assets."
you
And
go
I'm
back and
thinking,
forth with it, but okay,
anybody could be anybody, but who
I
knows?
know. It's like,
I mean,
look, I understand the paranoia, but
Tucker Carlson's father was big in something to do with, wasn't he an admiral or some bloody thing? Or he was something to do with the CIA or something. He was involved in something. He was quite high up in something. It
yeah.
doesn't get mentioned very much, but I think I saw on uh, America's Untold Stories. You ever watch that one with Mark? Can't remember his name. Two guys, Eric and Mark. Mark, God, I can't remember his name now. He was a producer and he's been around for quite. He's about my age. What the hell is his name? There's another Lord Buckley on Twitter, but they do these in depth plunges into the JFK thing and various other things,
Right.
and they come up with the connections with Tucker Carlson's father and various law enforcement or deep state or dark force type things.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
so it's
Tucker
like,
Carlson came out of the power circle in
yeah,
Washington D.C., and he openly admits that. That's what
yeah,
he came out of.
but
He said he's just had a bit of an epiphany.
yeah,
And I mean, they
I
started to
think
come for him.
so.
He would do these conservative talking points on his Fox show and stuff. Suddenly, you had at one point, these Antifa activists attacked his home and threatened his wife
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I
he
think
did
that
the
did
right
a
thing.
number on him at that
You know,
point, and then he disappeared from there. Nobody knows where he lives now, but
well, that seems sensible.
yeah.
Yeah, you've got to be what happened to Jon Stewart? Remember, he was on whatever show did he do? Jon Stewart,
Jon Stewart
maybe
did the Daily Show,
the Daily Show. That
and
was the
now he's
one.
back on it, but he's every now and then he'll hit a point that makes
The
sense, but the
last,
rest of it
the, I
he
saw
just
a clip
slobbers all
recently.
over power. I just don't really take him seriously at all.
I used to like him when he was originally in the Daily Show because he did have some points. He was quite funny. But then I saw him doing something recently, and it was like Biden's best friend. So I think it was
Right.
very much on that side. I always thought he was more leaning towards the Republican side, but maybe maybe either likes everybody or hates him. Maybe that's
Well,
what it is.
a lot of people took that. He never really was. It's just he was doing a parody of news media because of how
Yeah,
so much
as you do.
BS it is, and that
Yeah,
was the point of the Daily Show. But it became just another platform for the Democratic Party, basically, and so that's where that goes, and it's
so here.
unfortunate.
So
But
as far as fear goes now, I mean, I don't know how this affects Scotland. How I mean, as far there was apparently there was some sort of copycat riot thing was happened in Glasgow, but nobody really knew about it. I think it was. I don't think anything really happened. I think people said something had happened,
yeah,
and so I think they're trying to do something. But really, between
Well,
Scotland, but it was more an overt political hatred of each other rather than.
yeah,
I mean, we put it this way: Scotland has pretty much been a dictatorship for the last 14 years.
right.
Since Salmond was beaten and Nicola Sturgeon got the job, it really has been a one-party state. So
Right.
we're pretty much. I mean, the Conservatives are dead as far as Scotland goes. They're not worth it. But Labour are starting to come up again, which is obviously worrying for the SNP for the next Scottish elections, which I think is a couple of years' time, if we ever get there. But the way Labour are now, if Labour get in Scotland, it will be worse than a one-party state. It will be essential. It will be a dictatorship in Scotland. It will go the same way as he's trying to do in England. It will be one of his disciples that will.
Yeah.
At the moment, I think it's I've actually lost track of who leads Labour in Scotland. I really have.
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter.
It used to. Matter. It really doesn't matter. They're just figureheads.
No, when you remember the old, when you had the likes of Donald Dewar and people like that, Robin Cook, Scottish politicians, John Brown, so that they had really, really good politicians. People who were recognised for the good they did and for being brilliant. Right. I'm ruling Gordon Brown out of this because he's just such a complete. I mean, Gordon Brown was terrible, terrible Prime Minister, terrible Chancellor. He's a very terrible person.
Right.
But he's very big. He's very big in this. I think he's kind of coaching Keir Starmer, I think that kind of thing. He's in the background, hovering around. But he's supposed to be the man who saved the world in 2008 from the financial meltdown. He claims he did.
Yeah.
In his own mind, he thinks he did. I think it just kind of went the way it was going to go, and everybody, the money was lost, and that was that. They just printed a whole lot more.
Yeah, nothing was saved. They shuffled some deck chairs. They sacrificed, like over here, they sacrificed a couple of firms. And then extorted the rest, and now we're back where we were, only far, far worse than what that was.
Yeah, the national debt now makes 2008 look like
it's child's play now. I mean,
it's nothing. It was nothing at all, and the chances are that it's all going to at some point. Probably, well, they're trying to the BRICS partnership,
right? The BRICS,
dollar.
right?
Now, if that goes ahead, then the dollar's just going to.
It will collapse. I mean, they've already. Saudi Arabia has dropped the petrodollar. That's big step towards that.
Yeah. And Russia has so much oil and gas that they can export. I mean, we'll put sanctions on Russia. They've never been better off.
It is like, okay, well, then we're on our own, right? So they start dropping the dollar. So now what do you do? Which that leaves America's really only option is to burn or open up its own energy sector. If they open up their own energy sector, that's a game changer, and you're back in it. But I don't see that happening. Trump did that. And then the knives came out. I think that was the biggest threat that he did was that.
Yeah, see, my father said years ago, he said, you don't realize that the Americans capped the wells a long time ago.
Yeah,
the big wells, they capped them. They said, we don't use that. We'll get cheap oil from Middle East, and we'll get control. It'll give us a lot more power. We'll do that. Now, but they can. I mean, oil's not going to run out. It's a simple fact. Oil will never run out. It's not a fossil fuel. It's something that's there. It's produced constantly by them.
It's sure a hell of a lot more than they led us to believe. There's untapped pockets of it we keep finding because of the new geological technology, and that's one of the things. I mean, America is sitting on practically an ocean of it. So
yeah, exactly.
So I mean, game over.
I think that would be the sensible thing to do. Then you don't have to. It's just why I never understood why they didn't do that previously, because at some point you're going to have to.
Yeah.
If this happens and you're out on your own, you're sitting there, right? Everybody else is sort of deserted America. You're going to have to use your own bloody oil now.
Yeah.
And actually do it. And they make the point, there'll be an opportunity to make America a powerful state again if they did that.
Yeah.
There's so what things they could do and start engineering, manufacturing their own goods
Because
again
there
instead of
are
buying
quite a
cheap
few
Chinese
who would be
stuff.
in need of it. And you say, well,
Yeah.
let's make a deal, and that's how that works.
And you get people back to work, keep people in the manufacturing, doing
Yeah.
whatever, open car plants again.
Yeah.
Actually, what they used to do, instead of buying cheap garbage from overseas and outsourcing everything, like you got Apple and all these, what in China, the people are making these Apple iPhones for next to nothing, and they're
Yeah.
selling for $1,000, £1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't understand. But Britain did the same thing. It had a relatively good car manufacturing. They're still good. They're actually manufacturing Japanese and German cars in Britain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
then
obviously
saying,
somebody in Britain knows how to make a car.
yeah, so they could make their own
Maybe make
cars
your
if they
own.
wanted to. But that was a deliberate.
Yes.
The currency was destroyed by the unions on the orders of whoever.
Right.
Just go on strike constantly, and eventually people get fed up and they'll buy Japanese cars or they'll buy get reliability, and they can get some of the cars that were coming out in the 70s in Britain literally had no paint on them. You could see the undercoat, and they just quick one coating out the door. They just rusted. They took them out, and you could hear the rust crunching through them. They were absolute garbage. I mean, tinfoil was more solidity than some of them.
Right.
They were deliberately made badly in order to crush the industry.
You see, that's the type of thing. That's why they want to shut everybody down from talking, because people start talking about, hey, you notice how crappy the cars are? Hey, why don't you shut up about that? That's what they want.
One of the first things they did during the start of the COVID shit show was to close pubs and cafes.
Right.
So people couldn't congregate and meet. It's like they did, in Dickensian times. Everybody met in the coffee shop. The first thing they did, shut these down. Well, people can't get together and say, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right.
You start talking to each other, you might think.
Yeah, start talking to each other. The only talking to each other we did was in the queue in the car park going into the supermarket.
Right.
In the piss and rain or the snow or whatever, and you've got a line of people. I mean, if I went and there was that many people, I just wouldn't go. Well, I'll just make do with what I've got.
Right.
I'll wait for another day or another time when there's 5 people there. But there was, and then you had traffic light system on the doors of the supermarkets, and people were standing there like cattle. Oh, it's red. I can't go in. So you can't. No. Look, it's red. Walk in. You can't. It's red. It's red. Oh my God! You people are so stupid. They were so brainwashed, and then they had a one-way system around the store, arrows on the floor. And after they took them away, I heard people several times say, I really miss that one-way system. I really liked that. That was very sensible. Oh my good God. That's how far down.
That's how fast. That's how fast
it can be done. That was happened within 3 months. They were used to queuing outside. They liked the idea of being told what to do because they didn't have to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, that decision to step in the door when the light's on red, couldn't do it because the green light, because the red light was there. You can't do that. It's a red light. Just watch me. Hi, I'm in.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you people? But it was like that just for everything. I just didn't change doing anything. I drive from where I am into Glasgow.
Right,
and I was followed a couple of times by the police. I was stopped once, that's because the car I was driving the horrendous oil burning problem. And apparently there was a subsidy. And the guy I bought it from was very proud of saying, I blacked out the windows myself. Well, I know why I blacked out the windows so you wouldn't see the blue smoke. It was like, literally a smoke screen. The policeman comes to the door of the car and said, police in there. I said, yeah, I'm just heading up to Tan's garage up the road. Oh, no problem, mate, Just get that side. I have to go. Had I said maybe I'd go to Jones' garage, maybe that made a different story. I don't know. But they're very sensitive to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you just got to play the game, And I got rid of the car. I said, I mean, it was a Mercedes. It was a lovely car. It looked fantastic. It needed a new engine, and the new engine would cost me, the same price as the car completely. Or you get a second-hand one, which is, when you put it in, it's worse than you had. So goodbye, car.
Right.
If it went, give somebody else the problem with the smoke.
But one of the positive signs, if you look for them, is that they go along with the theater. It would appear to be that they have to. That at some aspects of elections are real, that they put themselves through this. Otherwise, why bother? And then with COVID, I knew a lot of people in authority were just getting high on this authority they had, but they had to let it go somewhat. So they were even talks of, well, we're going to need climate change passports and all that. So it all went by the wayside for the moment. But it tells me they're not as powerful as one might suspect. So there's some amount of hope to this.
If there'd been enough pushback at the time, it may have knocked it back 10 or 20 years.
Right. But it wasn't enough of a pushback. Yeah.
It just got to that stage where it was almost not enough. Right. I did read something that if you're 6% of the population decides to come out in the streets, that's enough generally to topple a government or whatever. But then again, had that happened, it's like the guy standing at the wishing well with his wife, and he's got this enormous bulge out front of his coat. And she says, well, now you've got it. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Well,
so you've got the country that you're standing there going, oh, shit, what do we do now?
Well, there's always another problem.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? You got to deal with the one you've got.
Somebody puts their hand up and says, well, I'm a vegan. No, we're not talking about that. On your bike and go away. Or the horror thing is, somebody puts their hand up and says, I used to be a local councillor. Oh my God, no, stay away.
Yeah.
I think if you were going to ever do something, you'd need people who'd never, ever been in politics before.
Right. You need more of that. If my master plan would be right now, go ahead and get Trump back in. That's all I got. And then immediately look for his successor, which I would assume to be J.D. Vance at this point. But on top of that, they need to pursue a convention of the states for the United States. You only need 33 states to unite on that. And then we can amend the Constitution and break the backbone of power through term limits and whatnot, so that there can never be any political careers.
You've got people in the Senate who are probably, it was a nudging 100 and nudging the grave.
They're all walking corpses.
Literally unheard speak.
It's not just Biden. They're all of the same generation. They've been there forever, and they're all very much entrenched in power, and they won't let it go. The only thing that replace them are these deranged young communists and whatnot. And
there's no middle ground, is there?
There's nothing there. The old criminals are dying off.
Yeah.
All that's left are lunatic, genocidal communists.
Who are to
take it over.
Young criminals.
Yes.
Because they are criminals, and it's like listen to some ex-councillor talking about, we just cut their heads off, or we cut their throats, or we do this, and she's applauding. He was talking about white people, and this white girl's applauding. Applauding for your own death, you stupid woman. You think, why would you do it? Or maybe a man, it's difficult to tell.
Person.
We'll say person just to keep it right. It was a person.
Okay, better be careful.
Who was applauding her own demise. You're like, for goodness sake. What is wrong with you?
But another thing, a point of possible hopefulness is that when your dear lady Nicola Sturgeon was given the boot, it happened as a result of her allowing a rapist to go into a women's prison because he suddenly identified as a woman.
As a man, as a woman, yes. That was not a very clever thing, and it's still happening, apparently.
And yet, with the way things are going, I'm kind of surprised that there was some sanity that ruled. No, we can't do that.
I think it really got to a ridiculous stage, really.
Yeah.
Her, I think her problem was she annoyed an awful lot of people during the whole COVID thing. And she had to be taken. She was part of the meetings, in London, and she would go into these meetings, and she'd be the first one out because she'd rush to get hold of some journalist to tell her exactly what was going on. She had to be
always...
and the people who were really powerful, really what they've said it. We really got pissed off with Nicola Sturgeon, what she was doing. She was just out there wanting to grandstanding.
And she got too big for her britches.
Oh yeah.
They all right. Goodbye, Nicola.
And the men in the grey kilts appeared and tapped on the shoulder and said,
yeah, we've had
make
enough.
Way, time to go. Come on.
So it's good to see. It doesn't really improve the situation because there's plenty more where she came from.
Well, it's just another ending. In fact, her generation of SNP politician are still around and still sucking money out of the system. They're still there. There was sort of a gang of 5 at that time. We're all from the same generation. Yeah. And several of them are still in there, still be voted in if they were literally corpses, and they're still going around the world.
Yes.
Going around the world to Scottish embassies, a country that isn't actually a country, it's not an independent country, but we've got embassies around the world. And they're wondering where the money went. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Just think about what you're doing here.
Well, that was the odd thing about it. It was like the independence movement at the time when Brexit happened, that they were petitioning to rejoin the European Union. And I'm look, that's not independent.
The European Union said, you'll be very welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, of course. Not that it matters, they're still abiding by it anyway. So, yeah.
But, I think we're going back into the European Union again, or something. Free travel apparently is being discussed, but we're never out of it. It was all smoke and mirrors.
No, you're not out of it. You're still.
The public voted to come out, and the politicians said, "What the hell is going on here? We've got to do something about this." So X number will pretend to be really for this. Boris Johnson, these people. Yeah. We must be sovereign. We must come out here. And all at the same time, he's negotiating behind the scenes to have a European army and Britain be part of it. This crap. So it was never, ever, ever going to be a final, we will sail off into the sunset. Never going to happen. I mean, the whole it's a globalist thing. Wish we would go, but anyway, it's far too powerful to allow Britain to go. Yeah, we'll just stay on. We'll just be totally independent. We don't need anything.
You're just all right for now. We'll let you say it on paper, but we all know who's the real boss. So
BMW will just turn around and say, "Well, okay, that's fine. We'll just take the mini production and send it to Spain. It's no big deal."
Yeah,
And
since then, the Union Jack's illegal. So it's ain't simple. You can't fly it.
Yeah, I wonder how the government with the minis and the Union Jack tail lights. I wonder if they'll be done for that.
Yeah. So
some of the minis with Union Jack sort of emblem on the rear lights.
So
Union Jack and the German flag. So there's the minis, which is a great British invention, now owned by Germans.
Yeah.
Something went wrong. Something went very wrong somewhere along the line. That was very strange happened that you get the Chinese own huge tracts in London, and it used to be the Arabs that were doing that, but not so much now, or maybe they do. But the Chinese have really started to spend money. And
China's buying up an awful lot.
I mean, they went into Africa and said to African countries, "What would you like?" Well, we like some decent roads and maybe some bridges and things. Boom, done. Chinese workers came in, done. And we now own the country, but we've got roads, and you guys can pretend it's yours, but it's really ours.
Right.
We've done this. That's the deal. We take the country, we can give you railway. What it is. And that's kind of how it works these days. The bigger the country, the more power, and the more they can take over. But when people talk about, Africa's such a poor country. If an African country, let's say they're an agricultural country who grow beans and potatoes and yams and whatever they grow, they've got to export all that stuff. And then they've got to import food for themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. That's how trade is. They can't eat their own food. That's got to be exported. Then they've got to pay to import stuff. I mean, make it make sense. I think it's to do with loans. You know, they've been loaned X amount of millions or billions. So this is the deal. We get your food at a reasonable price. You buy food back in at a more expensive price.
Yeah.
And you'll never ever pay the debt off, ever. Never, ever, ever will you pay that debt off because we don't want you to.
That's right.
And most African countries could be very, very prosperous. They could be very comfortably off. But they're not going to be allowed to because you've got to have this kind of very poor people so you can say, listen, you want your country to be like this. No, look, this is, you know. So it's kind of a warning to the middle class. I think George Carlin did something like that, you know. The poor are there to scare the shit out of the middle classes and keep them at their job.
Yeah, right.
And that's really what it's about. It is, you know. No, you don't want to be like them, no. Or sit, you know, or eat all your dinner, or you have to send it to Africans. Nobody ever put, you know, a lump of heap of mince and put an envelope and send it to Africa. Never. Oh, send your food to Africa if you don't need it. But the Africans had eat their own. You know, they're not in some way unable to do stuff. They can do it. Just they're not allowed to. And that's, I think, for the entire continent being treated like that is pretty bloody shabby. Think about it. I mean, South America's got proper, you know, they have economies, countries with good, relatively good economies, and yet you go into Africa and it's, you know, just a lot of it hasn't moved on,
right?
And because they're not allowed to move on, or generally you've got corruption in government who then take all the money, any money that is lying about, they take it and send it off to Switzerland.
Yeah.
You got these billionaire dictators and people are living in bugs and grains. It's, you know, garbage. Yeah. Terrible. Yeah. I find it so irritating that the politicians are so, they're just basically disgusting creatures.
Right.
You don't care.
No,
they don't care about anybody. Anybody who say, "Oh, he's such a nice man," get away. They're not. They're not nice. The only time you'll ever speak to a politician is at election time. They're trying to get your vote.
Yeah.
Well, they don't come knocking the door and pretend they're your best friend.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't piss on you if you're on fire. They don't care. They don't care.
Well, sometimes I kind of wonder if some of them think it's like when they keep getting reelected, they lose even more respect for the populace if they had any, because it's like, I can't believe these idiots are voting for me.
Yeah,
I know I'm trash.
I have tried everything, and they still bloody vote for me.
They still vote me in, so you know, the hell with them, you know.
Yeah,
that probably has a long way to go.
Honestly, yeah, I would think so. Although I think the turnout for the past general election was very, very small. I think it was probably high 30%. When you think about it, I mean, you've got an elected government with a huge majority on a tiny percentage of the population voting.
Right.
Because I was pushing non-voting for months before all this. That do not vote. That only encourages them. Oh, no, but you've got to exercise your right to vote. How can you complain if you haven't voted? Well, I don't vote. Why should I complain? I didn't vote, so I can't complain about them. You voted for them and you're complaining about them. Don't bloody vote for them. They're bloody stupid. Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. You voted for them. Oh, shit, I'm so dead. And I think a lot of that got through because there was other accounts that were doing the same thing and saying, do not vote. But you're always going to get a percentage that will vote. There's certain parties can sort of the Labour Party can round up enough people to vote for them. They're very good at that.
Yeah.
They'll get their vote out. But to say that you're a great leader when you 34% of the public voted in an election is pretty grim. I could be wrong on that, maybe more than that. It maybe was, but I think he got 34% of the vote or something.
Well,
something like
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's like in the States, it's the number of non-voters far exceeds those who do. It's just always been, you get about 100 million every election. They'll go a little over here and there when, it's 380 million people. So there you go. That's not a majority of the populace having voted for either one.
Didn't Joe Biden get 86 million voters or something?
Yeah, and that was high because the voting was the turnout was much higher than it used to be. So yeah, that's what he's supposed to have gotten, because Joe Biden is the most popular man to have ever run for president.
Yeah,
by the numbers, you have to conclude.
Yeah. And numbers, I mean, anybody can do things with numbers.
Well, that's true. There's always that.
Just add a zero, take a zero away, I stick a one in it. It's like money, people say, well, I have to get my money out of the bank. You won't. You can't get money out of the bank now. Some of you I know went into the bank I don't know what it was, and they were arguing about my money. Well, we can't give you that money. It was something like a couple of £1,000 or something out of the account, and they wouldn't do it. And they said, no, we're not allowed to give you that. That's what's happening here. Because there's obviously the move to digital currencies.
Right.
And the trouble is the banks can't afford to hand out a whole bunch of cash because almost everyone's paying by card now. Yeah. So the actual physical cash is like a tiny percentage. So if there's a run on a bank or something, the bank would just go totally collapse because they don't have the money. It doesn't exist.
That's right.
Remember, you get bank robbers who would charge up to the bank and run in and empty the this and the safe. Now there's no money. They don't keep out any money.
There's no point in robbing the bank anymore.
No point. No, bank robbery has disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore.
It's not there.
The trade has died off completely. No more bank heist movies. It doesn't happen.
I know.
Anymore.
Damn it.
No money. And that's going to be that could be the name of a movie. No, there is no money.
The whole movie, they got this long, drawn-out scheme to get into the safe. Yeah. They finally do, and it's empty. Oh yeah, we don't have cash anymore. Dummy.
Just a debit card sitting there.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, what a fine, bold future we've crafted for ourselves. And we'll just have to wait and see how it all turns out. All right, Michael. I hope you don't get in trouble for talking about this.
No, I tried to be fairly. I could have. Oh God, I could have said a lot more.
Yeah,
I don't even think like that anymore. Bill, because I believe. Well, oh God, that's boring me listening to everything. I'll probably get all sorts of adverts and things and stuff we've talked about.
Right, probably so.
No, you mentioned socks or something. Next thing you put on Instagram, it's like 1,000 adverts for socks. If I put in cures for rheumatoid arthritis, I mean, just still been inundated with stuff for that.
Right.
And that's without even just typing it in, and bang, there you go. It's non-stop.
Oh, they're doing it for your own good.
Yeah, it's for my own good. Buy more of this crap because it really works. Yeah.
Well,
how many bees did you have to kill for that? I mean, bees. Maybe that's why bees are dying. They don't make stuff that's going to help your arthritis.
Well, it's better than 18 months for yelling at a dog.
I would say so. It's got to be better than that.
All right, Michael. Thanks.
Miserable bank robbers now. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a shame. Now you're reduced to yelling at dogs. So
yeah,
that's where it is.
Yelling at dogs. That's it.
All right, Michael. Thanks for doing the show again, and hopefully everything works out for the best. We can only hope.
Well, if we're all still here in 6 months' time, we'll do it again.
All right, we'll do that.
The views and opinions expressed during the Mr. Nailsin Show do not necessarily reflect those held by RadioMisfits.com. So, any complaints and or comments should be sent to @Mr. Nailsin on Twitter, where they will be promptly ignored and or blocked.